What your fear of missing out really says about you is that you're okay with missing out on yourself, and that is the cold, hard truth. It is a truth that I myself had to learn the hard way, and it took me a good 28 years of my life to arrive at that conclusion. So I'm not putting anyone down. I was there and I'm still learning. I just really want other people to think about this. And not saying that you need to change your lifestyle completely, but there's no harm in just putting a perspective out there, especially when the majority are not speaking about the same thing. We all live in an age where social media is so prevalent, and it's given us essentially instantaneous access and the means to look into other people's lives as long as we've got an internet connection. And although there's definitely great strengths to that, we're exposed to different perspectives, we build communities, we can get inspired by other people, we can learn from other people, and these things are so great. The only issue is that social media users are becoming younger and younger, in that I'm 28, I got Instagram when I was maybe 17 years old, whereas I see 10-year-olds with Instagram pages now. And what is problematic in having such ease of access to social media is that the younger you are, the more impressionable you are by what you see others doing. We are social creatures. It is our nature to, or I guess our instinct, to try to imitate others, especially those that we admire, those that are getting a lot of social recognition. But that comes at the expense of really doing the inner work to determine what you yourself really value and what you actually want out of your life. And what I see as the issue with social media is that a lot of people who have not done that self-reflection, that introspection, and really sat down with themselves, thought about what they want out of their life, what did they value without any social influence. Not many people have done that. And that goes into my point of, we as a society are so scared to be alone. Just think to yourself, if you've got a period of time where you don't have plans, you're always trying to slot in something to do, people to see. And we're so uncomfortable with having just nothing to do. We're so scared of being bored. We're so scared of being unstimulated. And I feel like we're always running from being by ourselves. And I myself did that for the longest time without even realizing what I was doing. Why I think this is so prevalent is because once you are alone, you're really forced to look inward, confront potentially negative emotions that you're experiencing, negative thoughts that are always living within you, but you're never confronting because you're constantly distracted by others. And I think we are so uncomfortable to do that. But the downside is that we then actually don't figure out what we want and what it would mean to live life on our own terms. And we draw inspiration from others. And think about it, it's so normalized to call people with bigger social media followings influencers. We're essentially admitting that we're letting ourselves be influenced by someone else, someone we likely don't know personally, but it's so common and people throw that word around like it's something to be proud of. And absolutely, having influence, we all as humans do strive for that. But the fact that it's such a normalized term, especially when people have not done the inner work to actually know what they want and what they'd allow themselves to be influenced by, that is where the red flags are. The point where we as a society are so scared to be alone, it's not a fault of each person individually, it's the fault of the fact that, again, social media is so prevalent, because you can be sitting in your room by yourself, but you don't feel alone because you've got your phone with you, you're talking to other people, you're seeing what other people are posting. And although you're physically alone, mentally, socially or not, because your social persona is being engaged on in any given second. And with me, I've, for the longest time, probably for the last 10 years, since I was probably 17, 18, I always had this inherent urge to deactivate Instagram. And I would, but then literally within 2 days, I'd be back on. I kept doing that. So initially it started with me deactivating once every few months, then it became once a month. There was a point where I was deactivating once a week, because when I'd activate, Instagram doesn't let you deactivate until 7 days have passed. And I was doing this unconsciously without even sitting down and questioning, why was I being propelled to deactivate Instagram? We throw around the term social media detox, but I don't think we actually understand the power of that and why we inherently do strive for that. Because the fact that you are deactivating social media, Instagram, whatever it is, shows that deep down in your inner being, there is something that is resisting it. But if you don't give yourself enough time, and I feel like the average deactivation lasts a few days, a few weeks, you're not actually tackling what the underlying issues were. And I learned that the hard way. I would constantly activate, deactivate, and I myself do not know why. At one point, my mental health had gotten that bad that I said, this needs to stop. I'm going to deactivate for a minimum of a month and really stick to it, because I felt weak. Like, I kept going back and forth, and I was asking myself, why am I deactivating if I'm just going to as quickly activate it back up again? And once I actually stuck to that plan, the amount of realizations I had after sitting alone with myself and bearing the discomfort, I cannot describe how much of a pivotal impact that has had on my life to date. What that my fear of being off Instagram was that I was going to miss out on what other people were doing. So FOMO, the fear of missing out, and that I would be out of the loop. I was scared that I would become socially disconnected, because a lot of people that I was talking to, I was talking through Instagram, like DMs and commenting on things. And it was a very hard thing to do, to accept. I didn't accept it until I said to myself, you have to be okay with the prospect that, yes, you may drift from people. But what motivated that was I inherently knew that I would learn to love myself through the process, and ultimately I prioritize that. What I found is people that I hadn't even been speaking to often on social media reached out to me through text, asking if I was okay, telling me that they noticed I was off social media. And that was very eye-opening, because it's people that I wasn't interacting on a daily basis and maybe had not considered a close friend up until I deactivated. And that kind of rekindled a lot of friendships, where then we would do a phone call, we would start speaking, and it just showed me who actually valued me by reaching out in a less convenient way. Because let's be honest, social media, Instagram specifically, is so convenient. Reaching out based on a story reply or anything like that, you're intentionally deciding to contact someone, it's a little bit less convenient. On the other hand, people that I was talking to Instagram on a daily basis, even those that had my number, did not reach out. And it really reframed my view on friendship, because I had so much more free space to actually then invest in friendships that were worth nurturing, and those that would actually put in effort to speak to me and contact me in ways that maybe would not have been convenient. And when I went back online, that essentially just proved the point, because people who I had been speaking to before, after there was no more back and forth validation through constantly liking each other's stories or posts or talking to each other, those friendships, the majority of them, did not hear from them again. And I was so happy that I had done that. I actually didn't feel a loss. I actually felt more full and more content, because I knew who actually cared about me. And that is very much a cold, hard truth. You need to put yourself in discomfort and maybe the unfamiliar in order to learn who actually cares and who is worth spending your time, because I feel like people undervalue their time so much. Time is our most important resource. Some may say money is, but the way that most people make money is through their labor and through time. And I feel like people, when they don't see the connection between time and money, they very much undervalue time, and they just throw it around like it's free. And once I realized that, I felt like my whole perspective on life had changed. I realized I'd been giving out my time for free for people who genuinely weren't worth it. And that showed me that I was actually disrespecting myself just to feel socially connected on a superficial level with other people. About solitude, some of the greatest thinkers in history, Nelson Mandela, Nikola Tesla, Sylvia Plath, they all came to their most pivotal and groundbreaking ideas through the self-discovery that comes from imposing a period of solitude in your life. There's a quote that I really, really love from one of my favorite authors, Henry David Thoreau. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. And that is so powerful to me, because till we sit down with ourselves and are willing to confront maybe the uncomfortable and the negative and the scary feelings and thoughts that we've buried within us, constantly distracted ourselves from, we're not going to know what we truly want in life, because we're ultimately going to continue to be and view ourselves as an object in someone else's perception. And we're not actually going to see ourselves for who we really are. And I would find that the absolutely saddest thing, being on your deathbed and not actually having discovered who you really were. Because at the end of the day, we die alone. We're born alone, we die alone. Yes, we live our lives with other people, but when it comes to the start and the end, it's only ourselves. And I do not want to have that regret. That's all I'll say. What the most bitter pill I had to swallow was actually how selfish I was while I was on social media. I was posting for other people. I would view who looked at my stories. If I hadn't gotten enough story views, I would be down and wonder why I wasn't so interesting. I would hide the like count on my photos because I didn't want other people to see the photos that didn't have, you know, a large number of likes. And it's just so sad, because you're essentially acknowledging through that your worth is based on other people's validation. And that is just insane to me, because undervaluing yourself on the basis of social recognition. And the worst thing is, just because someone has liked a photo or commented on it doesn't actually mean that they themselves value it. They could be doing that because they want you to interact with their post, and it's transactional, and you're just basing your worth on things that ultimately no objective truth, because it's based on someone else's perception. And we do not have access to other people's perception, unfortunately. That's what makes life so beautiful, is that you only have control over your own perspective and your own actions, and that should be the most liberating thing. It's a very well-known concept in Stoic philosophy that the only thing we have control over is how we react. We can't control what other people can do. We can maybe try and influence it, but at the end of the day, it's out of our control. And we're putting so much effort into trying to change someone else's perspective on us when we're not actually putting in the effort to change what we want in life inherently and deep down to us. And I do urge everyone to really sit with themselves and ask yourself, are you living life the way you want to be? Genuinely on your own terms, not what you think you want, but what really calls to you, what makes you happy, what lights your soul on fire. Because if you're not, that's not a way to live. And you do not want to get to the point where you have regrets around how you've lived your life, because I think that's the saddest thing. You're going to know that you had the power to shape your life, but you just didn't let yourself. And it's all on you there. And you can't displace the blame on anyone else. It is going to be something that you're going to have to live with.